this podcast, I spoke with an old biking buddy of mine, Jack Fogelquist. Please enjoy our short conversation. Let's talk about a little about biking. Kind of what I was thinking was like, so you were born or you grew up in Scotts Valley, and I grew up in
Right.
Santa Cruz, and then there's the whole Aptos scene, but like this was like this kind of general vicinity or area or district where there's already a lot of mountain bike culture and biking culture when you and me were growing up. I think initially, if I'm not mistaken, you and I met through cyclocross, right? That was like bicycle trip and cyclocross. That was the starting point. Is that right? Or do you remember differently?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's right.
So at that point, if I'm not mistaken, both of us were kind of just like having fun, riding bikes, and then starting to do some racing with cyclocross. But like the actual environment that we were in, they already had like mountain bike companies. There's already mountain bike trails. There's like skateboard culture and park culture. There's already a lot of bike culture going on. And then with the mountain bike scene, we had like a lot of different riders. And then we had like Cameron McCall and Greg Watts and Jamie Goldman and Tyler McCall. They were kind of like uh kind of creating the cutting edge of like mountain bike culture. So that I'm assuming was like somewhat influential on us and kind of like going in that trajectory, having like their posters in the bicycle trip and other bike shops and like having them around us in that vicinity. Would you kind of agree with what I'm saying here to some degree or another?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember even joking about like I mean they never existed, but like, having like like baseball cards, but with, all the local pros, all the kids would just talk about, oh, I saw so and so, and that was, a huge highlight of the day. So yeah, it was super cool with
Yeah, there's a lot
having
of
all the
hype. There's a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
it was like bubbly energy almost because like they were competing at the highest level and they're like living next door pretty much.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but you in specific, you went from like that fun and playing on bikes. There's obviously like a number of different kids that were inspired by these guys. Um, but you specifically took biking to a very high degree. Like you got to a point where you're doing double tail whips and front flips, uh, heel clickers, and like a whole array of tricks. I'm not even clear, but like you went to the professional level and you were competing at the highest level, crank work, slope style contests. What do you think propelled you to go further than so many other kids? Because there's a lot of kids that are interested in biking and they're pretty interested in biking, but like was it, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean the scene was definitely, like you said, really conducive to that. I mean, it was just such a it was fertile ground for for mountain biking for sure, where, there's all the spots around, so many, you could go out and ride with those guys, and ask them, how do you do a double tail whip? And they'd kind of share their secrets and stuff. So yeah, I feel like the environment was um, amazing for that. That played a major role. And then I think another factor was just the fun. It was so much fun, hanging out with everyone, trying new things. It was always like that big boost if you land a new trick or, making videos with friends and that sort of thing. So I think the two just they kind of rebounded off each other and really pushed
Yeah,
things along.
maybe the fun kept you going, and then the vicinity of having those professionals and that culture helped also facilitate the furthering along. And then
Right.
after, like, you went to a certain degree, and then after you, or even somewhat at the same time of you, if I'm not mistaken, Ray George, he like went really far as well, and he like even went to X Games, and he was competing with the
Yeah.
best of the best. So like, and then he was very close to you and all the other guys as well. So that was like another baton to some degree, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe my story's wrong, but like both of you guys like went super far with it, and the abilities that you both took it. You like so many tricks. It's just incredible where you guys went with it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to, yeah, because he was kind of, I guess not necessarily like the next generation, but a few years younger, and
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it was super cool to, to start seeing more the Santa Cruz guys at the contests, and even there's some younger kids who
Yeah, I saw
I
one
remember
kid that was
Connor and
yeah.
yeah, some of those guys, they went on to get sponsored, and it's super cool to see.
Yeah, I saw some other guy recently in a slopestyle crankworks contest, and that was cool. He was, I think, from the Santa Cruz area, and I'm assuming that he had some kind of contact with you and or Ray George. So one thing, it's like it's just kind of like an opinion in my mind or like a projection on you. Maybe like I'm wrong, but like one kind of perspective that I've had on you, in my narrative about you is that you had like you're a very positive person. You're like a very kind person and that so not only were you like very like diligent and focused and like committed and perseverant like in racing and cyclocross but and then like tricks, I thought that kind of helped to facilitate your success, but also that kind of kindness that flowed out of your heart. You're like this very kind of positive person, like in my memory, I never like heard any of the kids that we were like hanging out with speaking ill of you. They're never speaking poorly of you. And I never remember you like gossiping or like speaking poorly about others. What's your philosophy, I guess, on kindness or on having a good attitude? I guess it's kind of two different questions, but could you speak on like attitude and kindness briefly?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think that I don't know, it's such a kind of gift to, get to do all these things, and to, have the biggest problem of the day being, struggling with landing a new trick or something, versus like, like putting food on the table. Or I mean, it really is, it's all a lot of fun, and then there's not a whole lot to really get up in
Complain
arms
about.
about, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, that was kind of a grounding thing for me. But
I think maybe that
yeah.
gratitude in your mind, like, because when I think back to it, like, I can't think of like my mindset being very grateful. Whereas, like, if I reflect on it now, like, there's so much to be grateful for. But it sounds like even then at that time, you were already grateful of the conditions that you found yourself in and you're enjoying it so much. Um, yeah. And thank you, dude. Thank you so much for your time and for your willingness to have this chat.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, it's great to see you again, and catch up a bit.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Keyboard podcast. Please have a nice day.